to New Europe, where you can watch us make the news. My name is Adam Ayton. I'm talking here with Philippe van Impe, founder of the Brussels Data Science Community, and today we're going to be talking about using big data for good. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me here, Adam.
So what are we talking about when we are talking about big data? What are we talking about?
Well, we have had a recent explosion of data and the availability of data throughout the world. When you look at today and what happened in history, until 2004, there was like 5 exabytes of data. That's everything that has been available on data from Adam and Eve until 2004. And then there's been an explosion of data and availability of data, where today we make about 5 exabytes of data every 2 days. So that explosion gives us a lot of opportunities to manage that data, to analyze that data, and to be able to do some research on that data.
What are some of the challenges you face in tackling this enormous amount of new data?
Well, one main challenge on this issue is the fact that there aren't many specialists available to do the analysis around that data. And although there are a lot of technical issues that have been solved using big data techniques, there's still a lack of technical expertise and on how to manage that data. And that's where the Brussels Data Science Community comes into play, because we want to allow young and also senior experts to become data scientists.
And what does that entail? How do you treat the data so that it becomes something that you can use in a more practical sense?
Well, doing a project around data science is a project. It's a big project, and it's handled in different phases. Of course, there is the first step of being able to capture the data. Then once the data is captured, you want to be able to analyze that data, identify trends, make some prognosis on what will happen soon or in the future, and that's also a very important part of a skill set for a data scientist is the storytelling. You have to be able to explain what the value is of the analysis that has just been done, of the results of the query that has just been made. Mm-hmm. So that storytelling is very important, and you have to be able to put that story in value terms. You know, you have to talk value to the business, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what does that look like in a humanitarian sense? I mean, it's easy to understand how Walmart might use big data to streamline some things, but how do you do that in a more non-profit, service-oriented sort of situation?
Well, the humanitarian part is very interesting, and certainly interesting for our organization. We are an organization where we train young people. We have a track of 1 year training on data science, for example, and we need some information and we need some data to work on. On the other hand, most of the humanitarian organizations don't have the budget to pay a team of data scientists. Mm-hmm. And that's where we both meet. They give us the data, we work on the data. They are happy because we find trends in their data that they wouldn't have been able to find themselves, and our people are very happy because they work on concrete projects. It's important for data science projects to see that it's not one individual who makes the project, mm-hmm. who can do the project. Today, it's there are so many skill sets involved that you need many different individuals, and the fact that we can train those people to work together, so that they learn to work together, it's very important. So we try to there will be a shortage of skill set, shortage of data scientists, but we are working hard to find the right data scientists for them.
I would imagine that if you're working in Europe, in America, there is all sorts of data that you can work off of, smartphone data. It's such an integral part of our lives now. Where do you find the data in places like Africa? Is it harder to come by, and are the results that you glean from that as reliable?
Well, it's a very good question, Adam. We see that the European Commission is investing a lot of money to allow academics and data scientists to work on such a data. So there have been many projects called Data for Good projects, where data sets are created based, for example, on the phone records of Ivory Coast, for example. And that data set is then prepared, anonymized also, because that's quite important, and then made available to different to organizations such as our organization. We then take that data set and then we work on it, and we try to find trends, we try to identify something in the data, do some search in the data. And I have an example, for example, on what happened on the Ivory Coast project, for example. One of the results of the project, one of the teams came up with the idea of optimizing the bus stops, because they had the phone records, and they knew who went from A to B, and where A was and where B was, and then they could identify what the ideal and most optimal bus stop would be. So that's one example that can be done with data. Another example that can be done with data, and it is available, is to use phone records. A data scientist can identify patterns and behaviors. Yeah. Once he can do that, and once he has the data, he can, for example, identify that that phone is being used by a man between 18 and 25 years old, or by a woman between 35 and 45 years old. Now, if in Africa you want to do a program against breast cancer, and you want to be able to contact those women, and you don't have their phone, you could use those phone records, and they would then, you can use then that segment of women between 35 and 45 years old, and send them a text message saying that they are invited to that they're just invited for breast. How do we call
screening?
It? A screening. They're just invited for a screening, and yeah, that's all done with data that's available, and nobody knew that we could use that data to do that. So,
in the US, the rise of big data has prompted a lot of questions about its role in, the example that comes to mind is election forecasting. It's sort of become almost an alternative to how pundits sort of see the race. Do you see big data replacing some of the more conventional humanitarian strategies, or is it another tool? Is it something that will be used in conjunction with other?
Big data is 100% an add-on, or the analysis that we make is certainly to help the humanitarian organizations to become better, to become more efficient. And that's, you know, we won't replace the humanitarian organizations, we just want to help them to become more efficient. Like we want to help the industry to become more efficient, or the government to become more efficient. Yeah, but humanitarian work is there. There's a lot of data available, and there is a lot to be done there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where do you think big data shows the most promise in humanitarian work? Is it identifying people for programs and for charities, or is it optimizing services? Are any of these fields especially ripe for big data?
Well, one example that happened with DataKind, and DataKind is a very good example of an organization that gets that makes a framework to get access to all these data sets. Yeah, and what they have organized is a data set where, or a project where we could then predict when there will be forgot my hunger.
Mm. Hunger, a famine.
A famine, yeah. To be able to predict some famine. Yeah, and they were just doing that by analyzing the prices of the market price of food. Yeah, and by doing some web scraping and getting all the data together, and they saw, of course, a relationship between the rise of the prices and the famine 6 weeks later. So what they then did is that they were able to predict the famine in 6 weeks when they saw the prices going up. So that was one very good example where DataKind had a very good value and some. Yeah. on this kind of project.
It seems like big data has a huge potential for the humanitarian field. To what extent is it already being used?
It's used a lot, and we see a lot of projects now that have been initiated. They've been, of course, data becomes more open. The European Commission wants the data for the government to be as open as it can be. So there is more data available. We see a lot of organizations to be organizing themselves so to allow the creation of those data sets, to allow data scientists to work on them. Mm-hmm. We also see groups forming, like the DataKind group. Like last weekend, there was a data dive in London, where and a data dive is a gathering of there were 120 data scientists available there, and there were 4 ONGs all coming with their data and saying, well, this is our data. Can we, what can you do something with it? And so the teams were split and they all worked during a weekend to work on those different data from non-governmental organizations. And so you see that organizations where a few years ago they were afraid of sharing their information are now open in sharing their information, as long as it's in a structured environment. And this is the kind of environment that DataKind can offer.
Beautiful. Do you see any regions in the world that are especially ripe for big data? For instance, Asia already has a large portion of mobile users and people who have good access to the internet, but are still very much in the developing world. Is there a region that you see as especially promising for big data?
Well, we as a European, we are closer to Africa. Mm-hmm. And the project that we do, there are some projects from Université Catholique de Louvain that's going on, where information from phone logs from Africa are used to create those data sets and to allow those scientists to work on. So personally, I'm more involved into projects from Africa.
Thank you, Philippe.
Yeah.
That was Philippe van Impe, founder of the Brussels Data Science Community on New Europe Studios. I'm Adam Ayton. Thank you.